Robert Kennedy Collar joins us now live from Zurich. You know what, Robert? It's David, sorry, what am I saying? I think I'm half asleep right now. David, the question seems to be, of course, about these Eastern European bloc countries. When you get issues that arise, when you start having Hungary going back, making a U-turn, saying, right, we need some preliminary or standby assistance. You get Poland coming out with its own plan. You have the Austrian Central Bank coming out with statements that, you know, essentially are saying, hang on a minute, we're not sure if we should be pumping more money into Eastern Europe. Are we seeing another peripheral issue cropping up here?
Good morning. Well, obviously, Eastern Europe is very much affected by what is going to happen in the core of Europe, because many of the investment from the banking sector, for example, have been tunneled to Eastern Europe as a way to find growth in the past year. And now, when this investment now have to sort of be reined in, it leaves the situation where their currency are not doing well, and they're really in a situation which is, in a way, worse than what we have in the core of Europe. So they are all but isolated from the problems we are having in the rest of Europe, and there might be even a more negative impact to the already very strained financials in Europe, which have a strong activity there.
David, what does it mean if Hungary gets this assistance? I know they're calling it precautionary help for now. Are we talking about an aid package? I mean, what does it mean for not just Hungary, but again for the neighboring countries as well? Do we see a bigger issue than what we are seeing in the peripherals? Is it bigger than in Eastern Europe?
It could be bigger, potentially. It is fairly early to say. I wouldn't see it as bigger because, obviously, the amount of debts that those countries have is fairly limited if you compare it to the core of Europe and even the other part of peripheral Europe. So I don't see it as that big yet because of the size that they have. That said, we still have seen, for example, on the latest results for some of the Italian banks, some substantial losses from their Eastern Europe exposure. So there might be even more surprises ahead, and I will tend to be fairly cautious on the outlook for Eastern Europe for the future. I'm more positive, for instance, on some of the core Europe than Eastern Europe at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, David, you're certainly not alone when it comes to thinking that Europe is running out of time. This FT report that maybe the European Commission might unveil plans to issue Eurozone bonds, something Angela Merkel has been firmly against. Do you think that is going to actually fix the problem now, at this point in time, when already the pressures are on, even for countries like Spain and France?
I think now it is very late, and the reason why I think we are running out of time is that a Eurobond, even if it would happen, and I don't think it will happen, will have limited credibility with France now on the verge of a downgrade, etc. So I don't think that will be very competitive at the moment, and I still don't think it's going to happen. What I see is more realistic scenario is, again, the sort of patches solution that are going to come through Europe slowly, 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 slowly. So we see more pain ahead. I don't see a big bazooka coming out any time, or the ECB, or even from the European governments together. So there is more pain ahead there. And the Eurobond, in a way, wouldn't be a fix-it-all solution, like the Germans also point out.
So if it's not going to come in the form of Eurozone bonds, and even if that happens, that doesn't really do the trick in fixing investor confidence, what is going to fix market confidence, and where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to seriously consider all options, including the Eurobond, but because it's a crisis of confidence, I think we need to find some ways, some legal ways in which the ECB could intervene with a sort of guarantee, if not by money printing, because that's not apparently legally possible. So some sort of guarantee to sort of stop the crisis of confidence and to say, yes, the governments are doing what it takes, are doing the reforms which are needed, and we stand by together to protect the situation from spreading further. As more of the isolation and countries in Europe coming out with statements like, oh, we have nothing to do with the other countries, we run our own government, we don't want to absorb their debt, we don't want to support them, that will be very dangerous, because eventually the situation will worsen if there is no solution, also to Germany eventually.
Yeah, David, I mean, the ECB has been doing all it can. It's been stepping in and making sure that it pushes yields down, at least for the Italian debt. They've been participating in these Spanish auctions as well. Do you see that continuing? Because the numbers still now say they're doing a decent job of making sure yields don't creep up to levels where we see a massive blow-up?
They will have to continue because I don't see buyer coming back into the market anytime soon. So even if we had everything going perfectly in Spain with the new government or in Italy or in Greece, and they say we are doing what it takes, we have the reforms, we're going to have substantial cuts, etc., are investors really going to be convinced to say now we're going to be big buyers of this type of debt? And that's a big incognita. So a scenario could be that not just what they are doing now, but they're going to be doing even more to avoid really a spillover throughout Europe, including France, which already seen impacted, but also eventually will go to Germany because Germany is part of Europe, so they will be impacted as well if something is not done to restore the confidence. And whatever they are doing, those governments, is not going to be fast enough to restore the confidence without some sort of united European solution to the problem.
Yeah, we're already seeing German growth slow down, according to the German Finance Ministry. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. David Costa, the Dean of Robert Kennedy College. In the meantime, on the back of all of that...